Hi moms and dads and boys and girls, my name is Brian Kusko with Roaming Reptiles and we're going to be checking out some pythons and boas today. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I'm here with Roaming Reptiles, and this video is made in partnership with the County of San Luis Obispo Public Library and for the foundation of the San Luis Obispo Public Library. This is my buddy RC. You're like, wait, in the last video didn't you show snakes too? I did. If you didn't watch the last video, you should go watch that one first before watching this one so that you know some of the information that we've already taught in that video. It'll help you better understand this video. And yes, we did show snakes there, and we are showing snakes for this video, but that's because snakes are my favorite animals on the planet. We will be showing lots of other animals in this video series, including turtles and tortoises, frogs and toads, all kinds of cool little bugs and lizards. So don't worry, we're not only going to show snakes, but since they are my favorite, I wanted to show some of them in the first couple videos. So again, this is RC. And what type of snake RC is not nearly as important as the fact that he was actually hatched without eyes. That's right, he has little things there that look like they could be eyes, but they're just spots where the eyes are supposed to be, and he doesn't actually have functioning eyes, which is actually how he got the name RC, which stands for retinally challenged. There's a little thing in the back of all of our eyeballs called the retina, and that's where he got his name. The retina is what is sensitive to light and allows us to see. Now, you might think, how does he do all the things he needs to do as a snake, like eat and all that kind of stuff without eyes? Well, the thing is, a lot of different snakes, including RC here, have what are called heat pits on the upper lip on their face. And those heat pits are there actually as heat sensors. So he can actually see heat. So if he's hunting at night, and even a snake that does have working eyes and it's pitch black and there's no light to be seen, they can actually detect the prey items they eat that are usually warm-blooded creatures, and they can see them. They see the heat signature, they see the heat waves that their prey items put off, so they can actually navigate, and of course using that tongue like we learned about in the last video to pick up the scent. But those heat pits allow him to see, so he can still see my hand with those heat pits because of the heat that is coming off of my hand, since I'm a warm-blooded creature myself. Now you can also see that RC is wrapping his tail around my wrist here, and what that does is it allows him to hang. And it's kind of his last line of defense from falling out of a tree, because these guys do like to climb a lot in the wild. And so if the rest of their body falls off the tree, that tail, which is called a prehensile tail because of its ability to actually be used as an extra appendage to grab and hold on to things, that's his safety net. If the rest of his body falls out of the tree and he's 50 feet up in a tree, he's got that tail wrapped around just in case that happens so that he doesn't fall. Now, I might also point out that RC wouldn't look like this in the wild. He is a purple albino, so he's got that light orange coloring that would not help him hide very well in the wild. So it's a good thing I have him here, because if he was out in the wild, he would stick out like a sore thumb. Now this beauty here, her name is Desi, and she is a ball python. Ball pythons are from Africa, and their scientific name is Python regius. Lots of other places in the world call them royal python because that's what Python regius means. And the reason they got that name royal python is because royalty in tribes in Africa would wear these snakes as living jewelry. And they're very docile by nature, they're very hesitant to bite or be defensive, and they're very easygoing snakes. Just by nature, African royalty would actually wear them around their necks like this and on their wrists and as jewelry. So that's where they got their name, Python regius, which means royal python. Now we also call them ball python here because, as you can see, she's kind of rolling up in a little ball. Not super tight, but they'll sometimes roll up just as tight as a little tiny ball. And they do that as a defense. And they'll put their head in the center of their coils and keep it nice and tightly wrapped so that things like maybe a king cobra that also lives in Africa might be trying to eat them, and the way king cobras eat is they go for the head first. Most snakes try to swallow their meals, which are always other animals, by going for the head first. It's the easiest way for them to eat them. So if the ball python rolls up in this ball like this, and a king cobra is trying to eat it, it can't get to its head, so chances are it's not going to be able to eat this guy. And that's why She is rolled up like a ball and called a ball python. Now, ball pythons may be one of the most common pet snakes here in the United States and around the world. And that's because they're fairly hardy, relatively easy to keep, and their docile nature makes them easy to handle, and they're my favorite snakes for handing off to kids who are learning about snakes because they're very easy to hold, they're not very squirmy. Sometimes people refer to them as pet rocks because they don't move so much. And those can be traits that are very desirable for a new pet keeper. And you can see here Desi also has those heat pits on her face right on the upper lip. So she does the same thing as our last snake, RC. And Desi is actually the second generation of animals that has been hatched right here in this room. And her mother's name was Cindy, and her mother before that, so her grandmother's name was Lucy. And maybe your mom and dad can tell you about an old show called I Love Lucy. This snake is actually what's called a fire clown ball python. And maybe your parents can tell you a little bit about the fire clown named Lucille Ball. Now this third and last snake that we're going to show off is Margie. Margie got her name because when she was a little baby, she looked just like a margarita pizza. Now Margie is a boa constrictor. One of the cool things about boa constrictors is their name. A lot of snakes have different scientific names than common names, whereas a boa constrictor is called boa constrictor in its scientific name as well. So here we have the boa constrictor. And she's also an albino, which is why she's that light color. This is not exactly how she would look in the wild. And in the wild, these guys are actually native to South America. And one interesting thing about boas compared to, say, the ball python Desi that we were just hanging out with and other pythons is that boas actually have live birth, whereas pythons lay eggs. So instead of laying eggs like her python cousins do, when Margie's ready to have babies, they all come out all alive, ready to go, ready to eat food that day. No waiting for them to hatch, just boom, bunch of baby boas crawling all over the place. And I always say that boas, in my experience, seem to be the strongest snakes. Pound for pound, their muscle power is just truly incredible. And if you want to learn some more about the physicality, again, I recommend that you go back and watch the first video so you can learn a bit more about the biology of snakes and how they operate and how they work and how they're able to crawl around without any arms and legs. And one common question I get about snakes is, where do they poop? They poop out of the end of their tail? Not exactly. They've actually got a space right... Margie, where you going? So if you look under here, this is actually where the tail starts, is right here. And there's a thing there called a cloaca, or a vent. And it comes out right there. Everything comes out of there. All the baby snakes come out of there. All the pee, all the poo. That's the fun place that all comes out of. I like to say that that's the most dangerous end of a snake right there. And all of these snakes, just if you're wondering, are non-venomous. Otherwise, I wouldn't be handling like this, because a venomous snake can give you a real bad day if it happens to bite you. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in and checking out these snakes with us today. We'll have other different cool cold-blooded creatures for you in the next video. And please have a discussion with your parents or your friends and talk about something that you learned today. And in the next video, we'll have a lot more fun. You guys have a great day.